The Crew 2, your thoughts, your impressions, and time to answer some questions. Right, now that the dust is beginning to settle on this slew of videos you guys have been receiving from myself, as well as all the other YouTubers and content creators and news outlets who had the opportunity to play The Crew 2, I thought it best to find a way of gauging your thoughts, your reactions, and what your feelings are in relation to what you've actually seen. Now, I did this by way of putting out a question on my community tab. And once again, rookie YouTuber naivety kicked in as I wasn't prepared for the amount of responses I was going to get. Over 340 at time of making this video. First and foremost, thank you so much for taking part. Thank you so much for participating. But as you would expect, putting all of those comments and responding to each and every one individually in one video is just not possible. It'll probably take about 4 hours, and ain't nobody got no time to be sitting there for no 4 hours, let's be real. So I've decided to section them off into categories. What I'm gonna do in this video is just pick a selection of questions that you guys have actually thrown at me, and I'm gonna try and answer them as best as I can, and hopefully just put to bed some questions and shed some light on some certain things that you might not be sure of, okay? Kicking things off, we've got Samuel Godfrey, who asks, did The Crew 2 add more new cities and towns into the game? Quite simply, sir, yes, they did, okay? What they basically did was they took the old map and completely ripped it up and threw it in the bin and built it again from ground up. So what you've got is you've got two factors to take into consideration. Areas that were already in the first game have been completely rebuilt with new buildings, new roads, ramps, jumps, etc. all added in to give those areas a more fuller, a more vibrant feel. It feels like there's a lot more going on. A great example of this can be seen on the Las Vegas Strip. It looked pretty impressive in The Crew 1, to be quite honest with you. But in The Crew 2, there's just more lights, there's more buildings, there's more casinos, there's more attractions, there are more landmarks. Now, you'll be pleased to know that those new states and cities that have been added to The Crew 2 have been given the exact same care, the exact same love and attention, okay? So there isn't going to be any form of mismatching. Next up, we've got Peter Egbunner, who asks, I feel like we should talk about the story more, and if the game is canon to The Crew, like, will there be any references to the original Crew game? Well, Peter, to be quite honest with you, no, I don't think there will be. Now, I've not received any confirmation from this from Ivory Tower when I was speaking to them, but obviously you can see the look and feel of this game is totally different. The game has gone in a totally different direction. It's all about being the master of motorsports. It's all about defeating the end game bosses for each discipline. I don't really see how a revenge for murder / crime-based theme ties into this. It doesn't make sense. So no, to be quite honest, I don't see how Alex from the previous game can make any type of appearance in The Crew 2 in a way that actually makes feasible and tangible sense. So nah, I don't see it. Next up, we've got the Video Gamer. Oh my gosh! I'd hope that visual customization isn't very expensive, since I don't want to trade performance for looks just because I don't have money to customize and tune both on the car. Right, so in the footage that I was posting, you will see that when I was actually finishing those early races, and bear in mind, these are just the early stage races, I was getting around 12.5 grand or 12.5k, a little bit more, a little bit less sometimes. The parts that I was unlocking, the parts that I was actually choosing to customize the cars, like the Camaro, maximum were about what, 1,000 or 1 grand, 1k, around about that figure and not much more. Some parts were even in the hundreds, like 600 or 700 for maybe a rim or something like that. And also clothing parts fall into the same price bracket. They're pretty much as cheap, if not cheaper. So no, you won't be scratching around having to divide your time between the two. And the thing you need to bear in mind here is that the Crew's way of you gaining parts, I should say, is different in a sense of you win the parts, you unlock them. Every time you complete a race, you are gifted parts. So no, that problem that you're talking about, it's not a problem that you will have whatsoever, okay? The way the game is actually constructed is developed in a way whereby you won't be facing those problems at all. Ezekiel Zavala, have racing wheel support. Don't worry, son, that's sorted out for you. It's been confirmed The Crew 2 will have support for all the major steering wheel setups out there, okay? I've actually covered this in a previous video, so yep, I can confirm you will have wheel support. Right, we've got the Dark Star Invades and K, who both asked the same question. Is there going to be more than one apartment, or is it only going to be the one in Miami, and Can you upgrade them? Okay, right now I can't confirm whether or not you can buy more than one apartment. I don't know whether or not there's going to be any other ones popping up in any other states. What I can pretty much confirm though is that your apartment will upgrade. Now, it's not going to be a case of you going out there and buying furniture from IKEA and places like that. No, what's going to happen is as you start to level up your character, your in-game character level, your apartment level will upgrade with it, if that makes sense. And you can see that illustrated in this screenshot right here. Okay, so hopefully that answers a bit of that question. But if I can find out any more info on that, I'll let you know. We got Gizmo Aiden, who says we need more variations of the F1 cars such as Mercedes and Ferrari. Now, here's the thing. Look, to get the Formula One teams involved is the most difficult of tasks, okay? Let me just explain how difficult it is, how hard it is to negotiate with a Formula One team. The official Formula One game comes out towards the end of the season. It doesn't come out at the start of the season. It comes out towards the back end of the season. And the reason for that is because of the protection that these manufacturers place on their cars, on their car designs, on their chassis. They don't want their secrets being leaked out. Now, there is a fair argument to suggest that, hold on a minute, the RB13 in the Crew 2 is actually last season's Red Bull car, which is true, but nevertheless, it's still a bloody difficult job to get these guys on board. I'm amazed that even Red Bull said yes. So I think it's one of those things whereby let's not push it, let's just accept what we've got and be happy with it, because not being funny, but I don't think anyone would have expected an official Formula One car in the game. I would love to see more, don't get me wrong, but let's not turn this into a, oh, they should have got Mercedes, they should, because it's not easy to get those types of manufacturers into an open world action racing game. Their cars are built for simulation based games only. The Formula One variants, I mean. We got Hitch 11111 who says, I think I'm the only one who doesn't care about boats and planes. I just want to collect, customize and cruise in nice cars. Hey Hitch, listen, homeboy, you're not the only one. There's going to be a lot of people out there who just want to focus on cars. And you know what? The good thing about this game is that they do not force you to fly planes. They do not force you to take to the water. It's up to you how you play the game. If you want, you can be the master of one motorsport, one discipline. You choose. You have complete and utter creativity and control over your own destiny, my friend, okay? Tom Beatty says there should definitely be apartment customization. We've covered that already, but he also goes on to say also motorbikes should be fixed because they handled terribly in the Crew 1. I found motorbikes very difficult to handle in the Crew 1 to the point where I just refused to use them after 2 or 3 attempts. What I can say is this: I've not really given them a go in the Crew 2. However, I did try one of the motocross events and it was very, very, very fun. They seem to turn easier, they seem to just be a lot more pleasurable to drive and whatnot. Now obviously that was a motocross bike, so I don't know whether or not that same ease of use is reflected in the street bikes and stuff like that, but the motocross bikes at least are pretty damn good. Now I have got footage on that, but unfortunately the footage is terrible, it's not good at all. I don't want to share it because I don't want to embarrass myself, but yeah, the bikes do seem to have had some sort of progressive tuning done to them. Right, next up we've got Liquid. Lovely suggestions so far and thanks for the platform, Bourne. Hey, you're welcome, sir. Personally, if they're expanding the whole motorsport idea, I'd love to see quads and jet skis being added in the future, and having not played it yet, my main hope is still on the handling model to change drastically from the first game, as I found it to be almost unplayable. Keep it up, G. Listen, my G, thank you for the message. Really, really appreciate that. First and foremost, quads. If Ivory Tower, if you're listening, and I know you are, Fergus, please put quads in the game. I would absolutely love the idea, the opportunity to reenact the DMX Rough Riders video and just have a quad bike just going down the street, popping wheelies, going on grass, going on mud, going on asphalt. I would love that. So please, can we get quads and jet skis in the game? I'm going to start my own petition for that. Handling. The handling has improved. You've heard me say it, you've heard other YouTubers say it. It's difficult to really get across how much it's changed until you get the game in your hand, if I'm honest with you. If you haven't done so already, sign up for the beta, Liquid. If you haven't, sign up, okay? Now, even if you're not successful, what I'm hoping for is Ivory Tower do exactly what they've done with the Crew 1, which is allowing you to play a demo version of the game. The first, 30 minutes maybe? Or the first 15 minutes, however long it is. I hope they do the same thing thing with the Crew 2, so that those people who are still a little bit skeptical get an opportunity to, you know, experience the game firsthand. But I can tell you firsthand, as someone who's played 2 different builds of the game, the handling has improved. There is more weight, there is more grip, there's more realistic handling, and there is much more in-depth tuning. Okay, it's not going to be on the level of a simulation, and it should not be. It's not supposed to be. It's an arcade racer, but compared to what we have in the Crew 1, it's definitely a step up, sir. Okay, now Carlos Lemus and Groovy Cheese are asking about how camber, suspension, changeable rim and wheel sizes, and ride height works within the game. Right, first and foremost, you can alter the camber settings of your car, but the way it works in the Crew 2 is the camber setting is actually unlockable, I think, when you get to a certain stage, if I'm not mistaken. And the reason for that is because the camber settings in this game are actually for purpose. Okay, they actually do have a purpose, similar to how they work in Forza Horizon. They're not just for show, unless you unlock a drift vehicle. If you buy a drift vehicle, then those have camber by default. But if you're looking to put one on a street car or any of the other types of cars, then you can do so, but you just need to unlock it when you get to a certain level. In terms of changeable wheel sizes, you can do that. Unfortunately, I didn't show that in any of my footage because I didn't even realize you could do it. I didn't even see where the option to do it was, but I've seen it in other people's videos, so you can do that. Suspension lowering, I don't know whether you can or can't do that. That's something I need to look into myself. I wouldn't be surprised if you can, as part of the performance-based tuning. And when it comes to offset and stuff like that, I haven't seen any option to do that, so I don't know about offset. But I hope I answered at least 2 or 3 of the actual queries that you guys had there. Right, next we've got Piggly Wiggly. The AI need to be overhauled. If they haven't, the beta videos seem like they have the same AI as the original, and by that I mean the rubber banding type. Okay, right, we need to talk about this. Okay, rubber banding is supposed to happen. Okay, I'm gonna say it again. Rubber banding is supposed to happen. It's supposed to happen in an open world action racing adventure. Keyword being action. That's what this is. Arcade racers are known as open world action adventures. That is what they are branded as. When you have something which is branded as being action based, it means the theme of intensity has to be constant, just like in an action movie. So the way in which they do that in these types of games is ensuring that there's some element of rubber banding to ensure the intensity of the race continues from start to finish. Now, where things go wrong with rubber banding is when it's far too aggressive. Okay, when it's far too aggressive, like for example, you've completely blitzed the track, and yet for some reason the computer, which is in a ridiculously, or the AI I should say, which is in a lot more low powered car than you, is keeping up. Yeah, that's unrealistic, but there has to be some form of rubber banding there, or else it doesn't work. It doesn't fit for the genre. Now, to answer your question, I've actually played against the AI and I haven't seen any evidence of it being as aggressive as it was in the previous game, but at the same time, I don't think I can really go too deep into that yet until I've played more of the game. So far, so good. Right, next up we've got Seraph. Now I'm going to skip to the middle of this one because it's the middle part of the comment that I'm most interested in. I personally would love to see permanent damage on vehicles unless repaired, because I see too many people just bump into walls over and over without thinking about consequences. Now here's the thing. With the Crew 2, as you guys know, there have been more manufacturers added to the game, okay? Now, manufacturers differ in a sense of some have got a list of permissions, a list of do's and don'ts, which are longer than others. Now, I don't remember much damage happening in any of my footage. Now, you got to bear in mind what I put out was obviously pre-beta footage. It wasn't beta footage, it was what's called a development build, a technical test if you want to call it that. So it's by no means representative of the final product. However, what I will say is this: if you do find that there are limitations in the amount of damage in the Crew 2 compared to how it was in the Crew 1, I would say it's more than likely because with the amount of extra manufacturers we've got on board, there are 1 or 2 that might have turned around and said, you know what, we just don't want our cars being damaged in the game. And if you think about it logically, if 1 or 2 or 3 says no, then there comes a point where you can't just keep turning around saying, right, we won't have you in the game, we won't have you in the game, we won't have you in the game, because then there won't be any new cars, if that makes sense. So you might have to sacrifice just how much damage you put in the game. If I'm making sense, I hope I'm making sense here. So right now I'm not too sure. I think we'll only know when the final product comes out on that one. Jap Tap, the car prices are unfair and the race pay is also 100k for a stock RX-7. Really? Do you know what? Yes, I do agree. Okay, this is something that did blow my... Do you know what? I actually... So I actually went into the actual drift section of the game and started looking at all the drift cars, and I stumbled across the Drift Ford Focus RS. I took one look at the price, and if I'm not mistaken, it was over 100k. I think it was like 140,000k or 140k or something like that. I looked at it, and then I looked up at one of the developers, and I said, 140,000 for a Ford Focus? What? And yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I can't lie. Some of the cars are just massively overpriced relative to what you would expect to pay for them in real life. But what I can say, as I said earlier on in the video, is the good thing about the Crew 2 is that you do seem to earn more money per race. Okay, so it shouldn't take too long for you to be able to afford that RX-7 Jap Tap, alright? I've got every faith and confidence in your ability to be able to earn enough money to get that car within the first hour of you having the game. Okay, sir? Let me know how you get on. And the last comment we've got here is from someone going by the name of Drink L Bleach. From what I've seen so far, I'm not very impressed. Graphics wise, yes, but in terms of gameplay, etc., it seems very lackluster. There really isn't a very special vibe that this game gives off like the Horizon series, in my opinion. They should have more fun, exciting, and unseen from any other game type content for it to really stand out. Show me another game whereby you can go from being a plane and flip into a car and flip into a boat. Show me any other racing game that allows you to fly a damn helicopter. Show me a racing game that has got a vehicle that can go on land and sea. A hovercraft. Show me a racing game that allows you to actually own your apartment and your avatar and dress your avatar up. Show me a racing game with an open world as expansive and as big as the Crew's map in the last 10 years. In fact, show me any other racing game that is doing what the Crew is doing right now. You need to lay off the bleach, sir. Honestly, use bleach for cleaning purposes only, not for consumption. And that, my friends, just about wraps things up for another video. So as I mentioned right at the very beginning, I've decided I'm going to do categories. Today was the Q&A session based on all the feedback that you guys gave me on the post. In the next video, I'm going to focus on another thing, a very obvious and reoccurring comment that kept coming up over and over and over again. It's the elephant in the room, it's something I've not discussed yet, and it's something we're gonna talk about. So stay tuned for that video. If it's your first time around here, I wish you a warm welcome. Listen, if you're interested in the Crew 2, this is one of the channels to be at. I'm gonna link the playlist at the bottom for you to check out all the Crew 2 content I've been putting out, and you should be seeing some links popping up on your screen now, so feel free to click a video. If you're interested in how the tuning works or any other bits and pieces, click that link. Or if you want to see what happened when I got in the back of a Mercedes with Theo driving it, click that link there. Okay, I'll see you when the next video comes out. Take it easy, please.